Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Thursday morning. Got a lot to talk about as we do every day. That's what we do a show for. Dudley Dawson checks in from hogville.net here in the first segment. Bottom line, Razorbacks might be the best baseball team in America. We'll debate that if that is debatable. I don't think it really is debatable. We will also have in the second segment Dan Mathews from Chuck Oliver's show, Southern Sports Today, over in Atlanta. Get his insight, what's going on over there in the eastern flank, top of hour number 2. Matt Dean checks in from over in Memphis, associate AD at Rhodes College, longtime women's and men's basketball coach. Get a lot always from him. His son is on the staff with Dan Lanning out at Oregon. Here's a great picture of what's going on in college sports around the country. And in the fourth segment, we will have Tommy Kane checks in. He was doing some producing with MLB Network last night. Of course, he was a long time with the ACC Network and Fox Sports in the South, Fox Sports Network. We are here 6 days a week, 25 shows a month, at least 50 hours a month of content. And you can follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. That's sidelines. That is at sidelines_live. And checking in from beautiful Pebble Beach, baseball diamond, Dudley Dawson, hogville.net. Dudley, I'll tell you what, we were talking about that series last week, Arkansas going to Duty Noble Field in Starkville. And I don't care what the record is, when you're playing a team like Arkansas and you're packing in 16,000 a game, that's a tough environment to play in. And Arkansas just they hit with speed and torque and left no witnesses to tell the story. It was a dominant performance by just a damn good team. And in spite of the loss to David Lipscomb last week, Dave Van Horn can still coach.
Yeah, and definitely. And, what's interesting is they went into Mississippi State without their top 3 hitters in the lineup. The guys about 1, 2, and 3 and still scored a ton of runs. Kendall Diggs, had a big weekend. They just did a great job in almost every aspect. And, they may or may not be the best team in the country, but Coach Van Horn's done a great job working around all these injuries and still finding ways to win baseball games. I think we talked last week, the game had passed him by. Many people are saying, and now there they sit, number 3. Not assured of a national seed because obviously got a couple of big series left with South Carolina here this weekend, and then going to Vanderbilt. I'm excited about that Vanderbilt series. Has nothing to do with Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks on that Saturday night when Patriot and I are in Nashville.
Wow! So Stevie Nicks still on tour. Amazing, and she's not that old. It's just. She's a wild child.
I think she's 74 or something like that.
Hey,
so,
that ain't old. Robert Plant's older than that. And if you go hear him, that guy takes care of his voice. He is incredible. Billy Joel and Stevie Nicks will be incredible. And golly, my wife was remarking, Mildred, about the music in the 70s and the 80s. What are we seeing today? I mean, I honestly could fart in a bucket and sound better than most of these people sound today. It's just.
So let's don't try. Let's don't try.
No, I know, but that was a quote that my friend said one time about Springsteen. He goes, "What's the big deal about Bruce Springsteen?" He goes, "The guy sounds," and but that will be a hell of a concert. But looking at Arkansas, and you look at the pitching staffs of every school in the SEC. You talk to coaches, and they're just scrambling as the season goes on to put healthy arms out on the mound. What's the secret with Arkansas? Let's talk about their pitching coach. It's got to be somebody that we're maybe not familiar with that you know about.
Yeah, Matt Hobbs is Arkansas' pitching coach, is a guy who turned down the New York Yankees to stay here. They offered him their job, their pitching coach job, when it came open last time, and he stayed here. There were some people who were were saying, "Are you nuts?" But he knew what him and his family love it here. He's done a great job. Who knows? Him or Nate Thompson could be the next head coach down the line. Although I don't see Coach Van Horn giving it up anytime soon, because he seems to still enjoy what he's doing, and as long as they're winning, that's going to keep him driving. And between that and the softball tournament, the SEC softball tournament they're having here this weekend, it's going to be a lot of good action on the diamond Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here, if the rain will give us a break.
Well, Matt Hobbs, you think about a pitching coach like that. I mean, you're right, though. Those people who you look at the college towns like Fayetteville, you're making good money there. Then you think about living in a place like New York City. The taxes, Snake Plissken is running around there. It's Escape from New York. I don't blame him. That's an easy no. Thank you. I appreciate the offer. But Dave Van Horn, he's not an old guy. He's going to be coaching, honestly, as long as he wants to be. But I said about a month ago, I think this is the best team he's had. And you made some points about with this and this and this, it might be. Who would have thought South Carolina would go on the road and get swept by Kentucky? And then Auburn would go in there and take 2 out of 3 struggling. But that's SEC. And you're right. You got these South Carolina comes at home. They're going to be coming in madder than a wet hen.
Yeah, and they've had a really good team all year. I think one of the biggest surprises, certainly in the SEC baseball race this year, they get out to a great start in league play. As you said, it didn't work out well for them last weekend. But, here we are, 2 series left, and Arkansas, which is going to be left for dead, is back tied with Vanderbilt for the overall league, half game up on LSU. In the West, so they're sitting pretty. They've got to go out and take care of things. It'll be interesting. Hagen Smith is now the Friday night guy again. That's kind of what they expected to start the year. And Brady Tigert, the young man who got injured on March 1st and was out for nearly 2 months, will likely be up to 60 pitches this weekend. Hunter Holland will be the third start, and suddenly things are falling in place for them. We'll get. I'm going to have to get off here for too long because today Coach Van Horn has his press conference, and I suspect that he's going to let us know that Jared Wagner, who was leading the team in home runs and RBIs when he hurt his thumb diving into third base in the midweek game. No editorial comment there, huh? He should be back this week after getting a pin out of his thumb, and Tavion Josenberg, the leadoff batter and center fielder, is possibly coming back this week, and Peyton Stovall should be back. So those 3 guys at the top of the lineup going into this weekend, all of a sudden you're getting healed for the most part. Dylan Carter out for the year with the 3rd UCL injury this season that Arkansas suffered with his pitching staff. But all of a sudden they're getting back healthy and somehow have survived the last 3 or 4 weeks of these injuries.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the UCL, that's the ulnar collateral ligament. And, Butch Thompson and Dr. Andrews is up at Auburn every Wednesday to work with the baseball team. And he said, according to Dr. Andrews, the elbow is designed at a max to throw at about 90 miles an hour. Man, you are seeing a lot of upper 90s this year, Dudley, across the board in baseball. That's unsustainable. It's like NIL.
Yeah, the injury du jour used to be rotator cuff, and then now it seems to be UCL, and we see that all over the country in different things. I know Wake Forest is number 1. They're I think maybe a team that hasn't had to deal with injuries as much as everybody else, but it's been prolific in the SEC this year in terms of starting pitching. That's one of the things that we talked about with most head coaches that come in here, that they're all battling trying to get to the finish line with enough arms, and that's both in games and the season.
Well, now you've got these last two series, then you've got Hoover. There are a lot of people that they're texting right now saying Hoover doesn't matter. I think it does if you're trying to win a few more games to get to an NCAA tournament, it does. But for a team like Arkansas, that where they are right now, that doesn't mean these next two weekends they're going to go 6-0. But what does Hoover mean for Arkansas from your perspective?
Boy, that's tough this year. Depends. I think it depends a lot on how they do these next 2 weeks. You take 4 of 6 these next 2 weeks, and you're setting pretty for a national seed, I would think. You would be fine, I think, in not pushing it in Hoover. There's some years that teams go down there. Alabama comes to mind last year that, going into the tournament, they needed to do it a little bit more to get to where they wanted to be. Arkansas, if they're sitting in a national seed and you get an opportunity to rest some guys, I'm competitive enough that I would never step out on a baseball field or any other situation and not want to win. But you make decisions on what's best for the rest of the postseason, not just in Hoover. And we know full well that they, weren't successful at all last season in Hoover, and then went on this run going through Oklahoma State and over in North Carolina, and ended up in a College World Series and in effect finishing third.
Yeah. I mean, you look around outside of Arkansas, look at LSU. I mean, they go on the road last week. Sunday, they get run ruled by Auburn. But that LSU pitching staff, you remember when Arkansas played at Baton Rouge, I think Arkansas lost 2 out of 3.
Won the first game and then lost the second 2.
Yeah. And what LSU, it's interesting, before Auburn and LSU played last weekend, Paul Kane, the pitcher, who very rare transferred from the Air Force Academy to LSU. People say, does anyone ever leave a service academy and go into the portal? Well, that pitching staff for LSU, it struggles. I mean, we've had Jacques Doucet on from WAFB, Channel 9 in Baton Rouge, who's long time covers LSU. And that's an interesting, they're number one in the country, but they're hurting in pitching right now. And the job that Arkansas has done it's brilliant coaching on their part. Matt Hobbs, how long has he been at Arkansas? Dudley, can't hear you.
I said, I think around 8 years or so, but off the top of my head at 8:30 in the morning, it's not coming to me. But done a great job while he's here, and obviously he's had a lot of guys go on into professional baseball that are playing in the minor leagues right now. Yeah. I mean, there are 4 or 5 pitchers that people really don't know that are probably from Arkansas. Jalen Beeks from Tampa Bay is doing a great job there. It has the last few years. He's developed a lot of guys, and during the recruiting process, his name is mentioned an awful lot about technique and also ways to develop. I mean, Kevin Kopps in his season that he had, a couple of years ago, gave Arkansas, quite the reputation, and I think that helped with Coach Hobbs as well, because in effect they developed a pitch for him that was just great that year for him, and he didn't even start out the year the closer, and ended up doing things that very rarely people have done as a pitcher in college baseball during the season.
Yeah. Yesterday, Butch Thompson was on the show with us, and there was a question to him asked by Doug Dean in Birmingham about the pitch clock and all. And he does not like it. He said the SEC and actually the strike zone is what mainly it was about, how narrow that strike zone is. And I did not know this until yesterday when Coach Thompson said, I don't think the Pac-12 has that same thing. It's not the same all over the country. And then he came back and said, we have the best umpires in America. They're paid the most, and they are graded after every performance. But that's it's making it like, think, as he said, LSU walked 6 Auburn batters in the first inning last Sunday. He goes, we got some help there. And I like the way he's objective. He's being fair. How do you see it?
Yeah, I believe that's right. In the same way, I mean, there are games this year that have been decided early on by lack of control by pitchers. Not only the first game of series, but when you have to bring in so much pitching on a Friday night, or in some cases, obviously Thursday night, then you're fighting it the whole weekend. You don't have enough pitchers to cover enough innings as it is. If your guy goes out there and doesn't give you a quality start, is walking people. And I think you can trace most of the losses back to in the SEC this year, not necessarily, powerful hitting, but giving them an opportunity to have people on base. It's one thing to give a solo home run. It's another to give up consistently 3-run homers by walking and there's also been, I think it's been pretty prolific of hitting people this year in key situations. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but there have been times 2 out, 2 strikes, some dude gets hit, and the next thing you know, Kendall Diggs is hitting a 3-run home run, or somebody from another thing. And you can't give teams opportunity. The teams in this league are so good, even with the injuries, that if you give them help, they will take it. I mean, as Tennessee's softball coach said, this league is a bear, and the bear, don't poke the bear.
Well, the pitch clock, the smaller strike zone, I like what Coach Thompson said. These guys aren't in the big leagues yet, and they're being put in a box to where the margin of error is slim to none, and it's not every conference in America. But anyway, we'll talk more about it. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial message with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, not the big leagues yet. It's college baseball, but man, the product, Dudley. Have you remembered recent? This college baseball is growing in popularity, and the stadiums are getting bigger. The interest is there. And I know there's NIL in baseball, but damn it, we're not hearing about it like we are with football and basketball. And you talk to coaches, you do, I do, not going to name them, but they're like, man, this is nuts. I'm in my office trying to do depth charts, game plans, and I got guys wanting to meet with me to play off, hey, coach, I need this much because this school is offering that. Well, a couple of weeks ago, there was a Leave It to Beaver episode, and the Beav was going to run away from home. He had all of his stuff packed on the end of a stick, in a bandana. And he goes, I'm running away. And Ward Cleaver goes, okay. He goes, I'm running away. He goes, all right, Beav. And he goes, I really mean it. He goes, all right, Beav, we're going to miss you. See you,
Good
Beav.
luck to you. Good luck to you.
Good luck to you. So that's what you got to start doing with this NIL crap, because, again, there is not as much money out there as people think being thrown at these kids. And it's only going to happen for a short window before I'm telling you, I see it in my business. Nobody that I've ever dealt with that has a lot of money in 32 years has ever given substantial amounts of wealth to 19, 20, and 21-year-old. It's all age banded and incentive-based trust. And these people, if they're going to be that crazy with their money, they're going to be broke.
Yeah, and I want to go back and hit on one thing. The pitch clock. The Dave Van Horn, I think it was the second or third game of the year down in Arlington, said, "Oh, it's going to be the ruin of the game." I mean, it was after the umpires were really coming off the top, with the pitch clock, not getting pitches in thrown, calling balls and strikes. Some of them were strike three. But, it looks to me like that's, worked itself out. Certainly there's still some situations that, that are still, tough to take. But I do think that seemingly has calmed down. And in the major leagues, I've enjoyed the shorter games. Not necessarily the Cardinals' shorter games, because until this week and beating the Cubs a couple of games, it's not been a great season. But you go back to your question. I do think that the NIL has helped a few players. It has helped them make decisions, business decisions, but it is certainly not as prolific as it has been in basketball and football. Baseball has always been the sport that gets the lack of money, lack of scholarships, and I think we see that consistent with NIL. There's going to be a few guys, and maybe the best pitcher in the league, I think, might have went to the highest bidder, this year. Paul Skins was here visiting, and I think Arkansas thought they were going to get him, but he certainly has had a great season, about to be a very rich man. But yeah, I do think that NIL. I mean, I've talked about this with you before. Doing the comedy show that we at the Grove Comedy Place, where we had a players show, we would have to deal with the agents / lawyers before we could talk to the kids. Now, that didn't used to be the thing back in the day. You could talk to the kid, but now they have a business oriented model that you have to go through. I'm glad that I'm coming to the end of a somewhat mediocre career, in that these are things I don't want to deal with as I get older. I want to interview a kid. I don't want to interview his agent. Yeah,
and I'll tell you a story, and you're not coming anywhere close to the end of the career. You got another 30 years in you, man, before you even think about slowing down. You're too good. Please don't step down. But I heard an actual story last year from somebody about a quarterback who was a 4-star quarterback. He may have been a 5 in some circles. And in order to meet with him, his handlers, his pimps, were wanting $35,000 cash. I would have said KMA, son. Bottom line is, you're going to have people and if you think about this, this is a good debate. If a kid's at your school for 3 years and then he leaves and goes to another school, is he an Arkansas man? Is he an LSU man? Is he a Florida man? Is he going to be able to come back to campus and be a ring knocker, for jobs and opportunities? Because schools are good about networking and taking care of these guys. But I'm telling you, man, it's like if you're married to somebody, a man marries a woman marries a man. That's how it works. There's no in between. Can't marry your horse. But so I think about this. Like if your wife leaves you for a couple of years and just says, I'm going to go out and just see what's out there, she can't come back. I mean, that's I'm serious. This NIL, the portal thing, it's nuts. And I mean, the portal, as Shoney says, it giveth and it taketh away. But we're losing that connection with these guys that play for our teams, is what I'm saying. Like, go back and look when you and I were growing up. You can remember Ish Ordonez, the great kicker for Arkansas. Tennessee fans remember Fuad Reves. You can remember Kevin Butler from Redan High School, Stone Mountain, Georgia. As Larry Munson said in the Clemson game, 1984, to win at the end. And now they're going to ask him to come out and kick it from 100,000 miles. And he did. And they won. But think about these guys now. What builds relationships? Trust. And relationships are built on trust, and trust builds relationships. It's both ways. honestly, I'm just going to say this. Do you really trust? You're right. Are they just waiting for the highest bidder? I mean, that's all it is. Can't hear you. Dudley,
I said at times I wanted to make sure the dogs didn't make the
okay.
So I keep it muted at times. But I was saying I trust no one but my family really in the big scheme of things, and sometimes I question them. But I certainly never believe anything that student athletes tell me in terms of recruiting. And now it's a full-time deal with the portal and all that. But I mean, Arkansas had a young man, tight end, who committed, then decommitted, has recommitted back all in the span of 2 weeks, took a trip to California. In the middle of that, maybe I should say it's rather smart, because you got a free trip out to California for for all I know, he went to a Lakers game while he was out there. But, they're taking advantage of the situation. And I don't have any problems at all with players being able to do what coaches have done over the years, basically negotiate for a better situation. But, man, it is tough to get used to when, like you said, you used to have guys that would show up here, be here 4 or 5 years, never think about playing anywhere else. When they graduated, they were graduated or left school to go to the professional leagues. They were thought of as heroes Now there are so many of these guys that I think if they're not playing, you're wondering when is he going to get in the portal? Not if he is, but when is he going to get in the portal? Arkansas, I think, has six or seven scholarships left to give over the course of the summer, I guess. It's going to be interesting as we take a look, and usually I guess it's around late June, early July when all the football magazine starts coming out, and you think, well, I guess somebody did do well there. Now we've got all these stories about who did well in the portal. Well, they did well in the talent acquisition business, but we'll see how it translates to on the field, because as we know, you can bring a bunch of guys in and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, and you look at every school, look at basketball, Arkansas is doing really well in the portal. But, you think these guys, I mean, what makes fans passionate about their schools is, they want to think these kids love it like they do. And the sarcasm that is so prevalent in our culture today is, they don't give a damn. A lot of them do. And that makes you feel good, like, hey, man, they love it like I do. Now you're getting to where a lot of the fans, because I talk to them and you do too, resent these kids. And if they get hurt or something happens, they're not going to have anywhere to go, because the people at these schools are going to go, I'm not helping this guy out. He turned his back on me. Why would I want to hire him? I mean, he'll quit and leave me in a heartbeat too. You're setting the tone for the rest of your life, what you do right now. But whether you like hearing that or not, to these young kids, that's my opinion.
It's like anything. Ex-girlfriend, ex-wife. She was fantastic throughout the marriage or the relationship. But if you've done something wrong and she breaks up with you, she obviously had no business whatsoever being with me.
Yes.
So it's become a thing that, and I've mentioned the Nick Smith situation. Everybody in Arkansas, knows how that played itself out. I was disappointed in some Arkansas fans turned on him, and it didn't work out. But sometimes things don't work out. I wish the young man well. I'm sure he's going to be in the lottery and go on and have a very nice career in the NBA. But it just didn't work out a year. Just didn't work out here in the year like they wanted to. Whereas somebody that came here and stayed 4 years, is going to be held up as a deity. D-Mac, Darren McFadden, introduced to the baseball game. The place went nuts, and that's because he came here. put in his time. They were successful, and who knows if the NIL had been here then, would he have stayed the whole time? Probably. But, now you go back and you try to assess those situations. And I've talked to a lot of athletes over the years off the record that say, I don't know if I can stay here. Yeah. And, man, if I could tell you all those, but that's what off the record means. I would say, oh, no, really? He seems so happy here. Well, not every day everybody's happy.
Yeah. Well, you think about, and I think about the people that I'm close with. I mean, guys that I went to college with. And the more hell you go through together collectively, the closer you're going to be. And the guys that just quit and tuck-tailed and ran at the first sign of adversity, you don't even remember their names. And I'm telling you, we're setting ourselves up, and these kids are, for a lot of disappointment in life. Because, look, the woke PC crap, that just flush that down the toilet, because life's going to kick your ass a lot. And if you're not tough and you don't get back up off the ground and keep fighting through, if you're in sales and you got this snowflake mentality, you will not survive. You will not make it more than one day. You'll quit. To me, 32 years and counting, no means tell me more. When you're interviewing somebody, Dudley, and you're great at it, you're a great writer, you're gifted, but you weren't as good when you were 23 or 24 as you are now. You had to experience a lot, probably a little bit of adversity.
No matter what business you're in, be it journalism or whatever, if everything goes fine for you, then when something doesn't, if you haven't gone through adversity, if you hadn't had to handle a few things, then you won't come out on the end better for it. I have had several. I mean, it's not a humble brag or anything, but I've had several near-death experiences, from car wreck to, strokes to different things that have made me the person that I am. And a lot of these things were situations that, were a wake-up call for me. But at the same time, I'm a better man, a better person, better husband, better father, better friend, because I've gone through all that and consider each day a blessing, instead of waking up saying, what do people owe me? What does life owe me? I heard Petra and I were watching a show not too long ago, and I heard a thing, the little quote that I thought has served me well over the years. It was, things that I thought were done to me were actually done for me. And I think that, that's been a staple in my life. Although at the times I was like, and that can translate to student athletes, in different places, especially up here, where things haven't always been successful on the court, on the field, on the diamond, but they've gotten through it. And I think I think it's important to remember. And I know we were talking about NIL being successful, but all of a sudden I thought, you're making a really good point. And we sound like old guys, and we are somewhat old guys, but don't tuck tail and run at the first sight of first sight. Now, that being said, conversely, the coaches here have had to basically, if you're not recruiting, if you're not over recruiting what you got here, and had to send some guys along their way, then it's tough. It's a different mentality than it used to be, covering sports, playing sports, and coaching sports.
No, it definitely is. And looking forward, hang on with us if you can. In a minute, we're going to have Dan Mathews, does the Southern Sports Today with Chuck Oliver. He's the producer, executive producer, and in that Atlanta market. I want to get this conversation going a little bit more, but just interesting things in here from my friend Dave Cody, who was a longtime sports anchor out at Channel 7 in Austin, Texas. Most people don't know Jason Tucker, place kicker for the Ravens, is a licensed realtor. He was prepared for a real job if football didn't work out. Got a real estate license in Austin out of Westlake High School, then University of Texas. Beat A&M with a field goal in the last game versus the Aggies back at Kyle Field in 2011. So, that's important. And Dudley, if you've still got any of your old football or baseball cards, remember they'd say like in the offseason, Dudley Dawson, linebacker for the Washington Redskins, works at, First National Bank of Wynne, Arkansas. He's a loan officer or whatever. That's what they did. So they were prepared. They had to. I mean, we had Jim Tunney, the dean of NFL referees, talked about Vince Lombardi got into an argument about a player's contract. And he said, look, we're not going $1 above $6,500 a year. He goes, I want $7,000. He goes, well, go make your $7,000 somewhere else, but you will not be a member of the Green Bay Packers. Good day, sir. $7,000. I mean, holy cow. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with Dudley Dawson and Dan Mathews after this.
Hey, y'all. It's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn. Just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Rob Browne back with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, and Dan Mathews, executive producer of Southern Sports Today with Chuck Oliver in Atlanta. One of the luckiest men in the world, Dudley. His office is a mere 53 feet from the front gate to Truist Park, home of the 25-12 Atlanta Braves. And Dan, I'll tell you, this is a lifelong Cardinals fan, Dudley Dawson on here. He's having a tough year this year, but I want to get your thoughts on the Braves right now and how good this team is because, man, they're just amazing what they do, that Braves culture, Braves country. But you are so lucky to get to see those games every day, and I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to what Alex Anthopoulos is as just a constructor of a roster because this has been a team that, I mean, there's been others that have been hit pretty hard by the injury bug as well, but this Braves team has had their heaping helping of, having to deal with key players down for extended periods of time. I mean, at least position player-wise, they've just been able to get back Michael Harris II. They've been able to get back Travis d'Arnaud. As well as I'm leaving one off, but it almost kind of seems like you get one, you lose two, and that's really been the case with their starting rotation. You get the report last night that likely going to be at least 2 months for both Kyle Wright and Max Fried, guys that are incredibly valuable to this starting rotation and this team. But it also goes to show you as well. Back to Alex Anthopoulos. He had the foresight to know that it was more valuable to keep Charlie Morton, and that move is seeming to be a really valuable and huge move for that team right now. So they're making it work, but, as I talked about on the show yesterday, they're about to enter a really rough stretch facing 4 playoff teams from last year and, maybe even a potential one this year in the Texas Rangers at their place.
Yeah. Dan, by the way, you've never looked better. And you mentioned a sore subject to me. I do love the Cardinals, but my wife, Petra, is a Braves fan, and I've always liked the Braves as well. And Boy, it was certainly a great deal by me. Two of my top three pitchers to take, being the two that are on the shelf right now. We're scrambling over here in fantasy baseball land. So,
yeah, it's it's been rough. I mean, the fact that you have Max Fried, who, for him personally, I mean, he's entering into contract time. He's kind of on that line if the Braves are going to extend him, or if he's going to look good for somebody else to throw a lot of money at. Which either way, he's going to get a hefty paycheck coming his way in the future. But again, too, I mean, this is what Alex Anthopoulos has built up. I mean, the question around here is, when is the Mike Soroka glass broken? We saw 2 years ago how good he can be. And, I think that's probably why they're a little bit more cautious with him right now, is he hadn't pitched in almost 2 years. So I think they really want to give him some seasoning down there in AAA to be able to feel like he's in a good position, in a good place where he can be, if not the Mike Soroka before the injury, as close to him as possible. And I think they want to give him every opportunity to be able to do that.
Yeah. Austin Riley from right here, DeSoto County Central on the Mississippi side of Memphis, is the third baseman. How much better can he get? He's young and it's early in his career.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, he still hasn't really scratched the surface of how good of a player he could be. I'll tell you what, Rob, the thing that I think has been most impressive about him, I don't think he gets enough credit for his glove, and I don't think he gets enough credit for his athleticism. I mean, there was a ball hit to right field last night by Eddie Rosario that Riley scored from second that I think a lot of people, when they saw Wash give him the windmill coming around third base, they were kind of a little scared. But, I mean, it's one of those things with Riley. He is that guy that, if there's a double play opportunity, he legs it out. You're kind of like, wow, he got down the line pretty quick. And it's like, no, if you pay attention, he's a pretty quick guy for being such a big guy. The bat right now, his struggles in the postseason were noted last year, and he even admitted to such, struggles. I mean, he went as far as to say he felt like he let his team down, which his teammates did not feel that way. It's been a little bit of a slow start to this season as well. And, he's trying to pick up the pieces that way. I know he is very close with Chipper Jones. Chipper is back to being an instructor for the team. Every once in a while, you'll see him in full uniform down there on the field during batting practice, working with guys. And I know that every single player that has worked with him really, talks about just how great of a teacher he is of hitting, which shouldn't really be a surprise because he was the son of a coach. And also, too, he was a guy that did it pretty well swinging the bat during his career.
Yeah. Dudley? Can't hear you. I think you muted, Dudley.
Larry was a great player, and I'm sure continues to be an asset to the organization. He's certainly. You mentioned Austin Riley. I think he had such a great season last year. Expectations coming into this season were high for him. The bat, as you said, has not been where you might want it to be, but still, with Ronald Acuna at the top of that lineup, having an MVP type year so far, they've been able to handle things. And again, the well-run organization that's been able to fill in different guys that and all of them, it seems like all of them are signed, for several years. At least the position players. So.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of gets back, Dudley, to what we talked about earlier. I mean, just what Alex Anthopoulos has done. Here's the other thing is that, for whatever reason, there's still a doubt at times about Alex Anthopoulos. And I think that's every GM, because I think general managers are a lot like offensive coordinators. Nobody praises an offensive coordinator for a great offensive play call, because anytime something works great, the players got it done right. Mm-hmm. But if there is, I don't know, like last week I talked with Mike Norvell, and off air he joked about, he was trying to make a cup of coffee for himself, and the coffee machine didn't work the way that he had hoped. And he joked with me and the other guy that were talking with him while he was doing this, and goes, that's kind of like a goal line pitch play, right? because remember, that's what almost cost Florida State in that game. And it's just funny to have that self-effacing humor. But the thing is, if Florida State lost that game, everybody would remember that. You're right. I mean, Ronald Acuna Jr., I mean, God, he did it again last night, 470-foot blast to left field. He's unreal. I mean, I think we've seen when he's healthy, he is, if not the best, one of the best in the game. Another guy, too, this was a move that was kind of scrutinized when it was made, but now I don't see any Braves fans or think there are any Braves fans criticizing it. Sean Murphy has been an absolute just gem of an addition to this team, not only for what he's done behind the plate catching, but, I mean, the way he's swinging the bat right now, I'd be very shocked and surprised when we start getting the All-Star game voting if he's not the top catcher in the National League. He's been unbelievable these first few games. And getting back to Riley, I mean, the last couple of nights, I feel like he's really kind of started to regain the swings. He's gotten some good baseballs on the barrel. Sometimes he hasn't had the results to show for it. Sometimes he has. That's just baseball. But no, I mean, this is a team that, even with injuries right now, they're still able to make some really good things happen in terms of the results.
Yeah. Let me make clear I'm a Team Wilson Contreras, but Murphy was certainly one of the guys that I hope that St. Louis was going to bring in, and he's certainly had a great season so far. But again, I want to reiterate that while I am Team Wilson Contreras, I'm not Team John Mozeliak and Team Ali Marmol right now. Even though we've won 2 of 3 this week, it's all the things that you said about Alex don't translate to John, Mozeliak. So.
Yeah, it sounds like that's the case right now. I mean, I'm just glad that you guys aren't blaming my good buddy Chip Carey yet. I mean, it seems like he came along and all of a sudden things kind of fell off. So, if that's the case, I mean, you gotta. I know Braves fans used to blame Chip Carey, so I think it's only a matter of time before the Cardinal fans out there start to blame him.
Yeah,
I think we're pretty solidified in blaming the general manager and the manager so far. So I think he's there.
There you go. Leave Chip alone. He's a good man.
Yeah. Hey, got a couple more minutes before you. We're going to keep you on schedule. I know. Tell me about Ozzie Albies. I'm just a huge fan of a guy. He's maybe 5'7". A couple of weeks ago, we had to run over to Atlanta for a few days, and he had his 8th multi-home run game in his career. I think he has 103 home runs. Another one of those guys from Curacao, I think. Is that one of Andrew Jones's guys that came that followed him up there with that program that he's done? It's a really cool story. And then also close out by letting people know how they can follow you and what you and Chuck are talking about on the show today. Yeah.
I mean, I don't think there is any, real coincidence that the Braves lineup kind of took a dip last year when Ozzie Albies was not in the lineup. I think that he is somebody who puts together really good at-bats. He is not an easy out. That kind of goes with the first part that I just said. But he also, too, I think his play is infectious. I mean, Bobby Cox, I think it was a few years ago, made the comparison saying he's kind of like Altuve. And we see right now at the Astros how much they miss having Jose Altuve. And I think that it's the same deal with Ozzie. I mean, he was a guy that was a top of the order guy early in his career. And I think that he's found a really good spot right there, the middle to back end of the lineup, as somebody that can kind of be a jump starter there as well. He's always been a little bit of a better hitter from the right side, but still capable enough from the left side. And also, too, I mean, a guy that when he gets on, he's going to be aggressive. I mean, I was at the Friday night game against the Orioles, and it was the pitcher did his 2 disengagements, and I immediately knew, I think we all knew at 3-2 and 1 out that Ozzie was taken off, that he was going to be gone. And sure enough, he was. So he's not afraid to be able to push it, and that's something that the Braves, so when they have him in the lineup, it's a huge asset. Follow me on Twitter, at Dan Mathews ATL. It's 1 T in Mathews, at Dan Mathews ATL. Chuck Oliver show today. I mean, what aren't we talking about? We are talking Tennessee with Wes Rucker. We're going to talk Oklahoma with my good buddy Tyler McComas from the Ref there in Oklahoma City, who in fact is hosting the Chuck Oliver show next Tuesday. Chuck taking a nice little few days off, so you're going to get Tyler McComas on the show on Tuesday next week. And then we're going to talk somebody close to y'all, Trey Biddy is going to talk some Arkansas Razorbacks, as well as we will get into some LSU Tigers with Sonny Ship as well. He will join us on the show today. So we've got it all covered, soup to nuts, on the Chuck Oliver Show. So follow us at Chuck Oliver Show on Twitter, and also to download the Southern Sports Today app.
Dan, fantastic stuff. Thank you so much. Look forward to our next visit. Have a great show. I'll be listening.
Love me some Wes Rucker, half comedian, half sports writer.
He's great. He's great. I mean, I'm glad you don't hold him being a Cubs fan against him, but no, he's a great guy. We always enjoy him.
I would be worried about him holding me, accountable for being a Cardinal fan. Since we have 11 and they have 3 world championships, something like that.
Yeah. There you go. Y'all take care.
Oh, you do too, Dan. Appreciate it so much. Hey, we got to get you. I tell you one thing. He is a baseball just nut, and he's he's an LSU fan from out in Houston, but an unabashed, as he says, Astros fan. And I tell you what, Dudley, Major League Baseball, and Tommy Kane's going to be on the show with us in the second hour. I know if you can stay, I love having you on as long as you can stay on. But he was with ACC Network for a long time. He was a walk-on basketball player at NC State at the end of Jim Valvano and Les Robinson's time, and kind of a great movie. The day before the Duke game in '93, after practice, Coach Les Robinson looked at him kind of like the old Mean Joe Green Coca-Cola commercial. Hey, kid, and throws him a jersey and says, "You're playing tomorrow." He goes, "You've been preparing your whole life, son. Be there early." And he got to be there and play. Tommy will be on with us, and he has his own production company called Pack Production, Wolf Pack, obviously. But he is what we talked about earlier in the show. But I can't wait to hear his thoughts on working with MLB production last night. I'm not sure which game. I guess he was in Atlanta. But Dan gets to see all that baseball. And I tell you, is there anything better to listen to on the radio than baseball, be it college or majors?
I think maybe classic radio. I'm into listening to classic radio mysteries now from CBS in the 1950s and 1960s. They've kind of put them all on the internet now, and that's kind of my deal. It helps me to go to sleep. Yeah.
Where do you find them? That you talk about the old Mystery Theater that was on WREC in Memphis at night?
Yes.
Hey,
I just put it in Google, and it popped up.
So it's the Mystery Theater.
Mm-hmm.
On Google, you can hear all the old scary things like the mysteries at night. You can go to Google. Dudley listens to them because she's a Perry Mason junkie.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And as a writer, I appreciate the fact that, TV is cool, but I appreciate that they set the scene in radio, and it's so good. I know people think I'm weird at times, but 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, those were some great decades in terms of writing.
Yeah. Well, you just said it about the writers. That's why I love having, a friend of mine in radio told me years ago, your best guests are your writers because they are thinking about what they're saying because they've probably already written it. How did you learn best as a kid or in college or by taking from here and writing it? It makes you think more. And that's how I learned.
I read so much growing up, everything I could get my hands on involved with sports. And, I learned math, learning how to do ERA and batting averages and all that stuff. And just, I've tried to borrow, I guess would be, from some of the greats over the years and the way that they do things. some of the greats around here, but also nationally, and just watching how they handle themselves, not only in public, but in print. And, I think the main thing I've tried to be consistent with.
Hold those thoughts, because this makes a lot of sense why you're so good. We'll be right back with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. All right, real quick before we go back, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis, located 8 Union Avenue, right on the corner, Union and McLean, across from Walgreens. State-of-the-art facility and Camp Lee. This is the first of 3 Memphis locations. You want to get a great workout that's weights, calisthenics, boxing, rumbleboxinggym.com. Open at 5:30 in the morning. Go to the website, check them out. You need to join. It is worth every single penny. You'll be in there in these classes that are 45 minutes long. They are sessions like a 15-round prize fight. rumbleboxinggym.com. Dudley, I like what you said about the reading part. And I always say this over and over. Everybody's heard it. But reading strengthens your vocabulary. It's like lifting weights with your brain. It's working out. But you just learn so much more when you read. And when you have someone like you or Dan Mathews talking about all that behind-the-scenes baseball stuff.
Yeah, and I make a big deal out of how I don't really care whether coaches like me or don't. Yeah. That's cool and all if they do, but it's not a prerequisite for the job. But what I do try to do and have done over the years from watching some of the great ones is try to respect their job, and hopefully they'll respect mine. To be fair, to be objective is the best I can. And really, if I have something bad to say about them, I can say it here at the house. There's nobody in the public wants to hear me griping about somebody. They want to hear objective reporting. My thoughts that I might have are shared here often in the house. And Patriot knows truly what I think about everything.
Oh yeah. And you should, you're right. You can't be worried about whether the coaches like you or not. You just got to be fair. That's the number one thing. Matt Dean is on with us right now over in Memphis Rhodes College. Matt on with Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. He's got a son who's on Dan Lanning's staff at Oregon. The prior 4 years, 18, 19, 20, and 21, he was with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. So he's seen the good, the bad, and the ugly already in college football. And Matt's been a coach for, 16 years. He coached the women's team at Rhodes, and he coached men's basketball as an assistant, and he's an Iowa Hawkeye fan. So, and Matt, what's your Major League Baseball team? You a Cubs fan or White Sox?
I'm just miserable because I'm a Chicago White Sox fan.
There you go. Yeah.
We are 13-25 and just got beat last night 9-1 by the Kansas City Royals, who actually had a worse record than the White Sox right now at 11-27. But before about the tail end of that conversation, and coaches. I've been a longtime coach, and I don't have the media exposure that an Arkansas or SEC school has. But you hit it on the head. It's trust. As long as the coaches trust you, you're going to have that open relationship. And they also know sometimes if they say off the record, you're going to be off the record. So it's a two-way street,
Yeah. A couple things. Number one is I'm so happy to have a fan of another 13-25 team on the show. I'm thrilled about the way this week has gone, beating the Cubs 2-3.
Yes.
But one of the small things I've done with coaches, I've been friends with some over the years, but I don't call them Dan. I don't call them Bob. I call them Coach, Coach Zimmerman or something, like that. And I think that shows a degree of respect. And I think as long as you give them that respect, they'll give it back to you.
It does.
Yeah. So, I think that's very important for our younger generation coming up in journalism now, especially with this onset of Twitter and the internet and all those kind of things, that you remember that the coaches don't work for you, that the fans don't work for you. You work for the fans, and they're why you were able to do what you want to do. And I think it's just important as I get ready to leave here now and get on a Zoom press conference with Dave Van Horn, that also, if you went to school with them, that you keep their stories between just you.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys, and I will check in with y'all next week.
Hey, tell people how they can keep up with you though on social media and hogville.net, all about it.
Yeah, hogville.net is our message board. We will have a lot of great stories this weekend on softball and baseball, as long as the rain allows it to play up here. Fearless Friday is the high school site to kind of concentrate more on the softball and baseball right now as we go down the stretch. But it is state tournament time here in Arkansas, so the good stuff there. And then the Twitter, if you want to see how I feel about the Celtics and 76ers, the Cardinals, Manchester United, the Vegas Golden Knights, everything but politics, you can find that on Twitter.
Right. All right. Great stuff as always. Look forward to our next visit.
Sounds good, man. Later.
Take care. That is Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, man. And anytime he's on here, you're going to learn a lot. And Matt, it's funny. You go to SEC Media Days, some of these young reporters out there, and that do what you want to do. But hey, Nick, would you talk about your quarterback room at Alabama? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you're damn right I'm old school. But I was taught to say yes or no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. When I'm around people that I know are older than me, I just always respect them. I look up to them. I think about, God, I go back to kindergarten through 6th grade at Presbyterian Day School in Memphis. We could not walk on the grass. Colonel Devaney would tell us in chapel that you take pride in where you go to school, where you live, and you will take pride in everything you do. Little things like that. Let me say something real quick. Happy birthday, Haley. Happy 17. Man, hope you go to Auburn. And also, I want to say something. Those of you that have ever watched the Paul Feinbaum show over the years, remember Phyllis from Mulga, passionate Alabama fan. Well, about 3.5 years ago, I got to know her through Rich from Atlanta, great friend. And, he's just been an incredible caller on the show for years. Great man, lives over in Atlanta. And I talked to Phyllis a lot. And, you see her on TV and she's talking about Alabama and getting all passionate. She's one of the sweetest ladies you could ever talk to. And grew up with 5 older brothers, used to listen to Alabama games as a kid with her family on the front porch on a big radio. That was who she pulled for. Now, you may not like Alabama. That's your choice. She was a good woman. She was just a kind woman. And, bottom line, she helped make a lot of people pretty big. But there's people like Larry from Shelby that you hear a lot. They're kind people, Rich from Atlanta, that have helped her. And she has been through a lot. And I think there's a special place in heaven for her. And hope she's at peace now. And she will not be forgotten. Doesn't matter who you pull for. If you're passionate and then you're kind, what you hear on the air sometimes, you don't really know people, but pretty cool lady. And rest in peace, Phyllis. Matt, I got to say this to you, man. We talked with Dan Mathews right before you came on over in Atlanta. He's the executive producer for the Chuck Oliver Show, Southern Sports Today. Right after we go off the air, they're on 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. And Chuck and I were at Auburn together. He remembers me at Weagle, the radio station, doing sidelines. And I said, I'm not. But Chuck he has a great show. And they talk college football 12 months a year. And you are right now, you're busy. I know today you got to leave and go on a road trip with the lacrosse team.
Yes.
Women's team from Rhodes. Where are y'all going?
So today's a little bit like planes, trains, and automobiles for me, Rob. So our women lacrosse team has had a phenomenal run. I believe this is the 6th or 7th straight NCAA tournament appearance, and we're going to be playing in a 3-team pod up in Geneva, New York. Now, for us to get to Geneva, New York tonight, we're going to fly to Atlanta. Then we're going to go from Atlanta to Buffalo, then a 2-hour bus ride from Buffalo to Geneva. And that's where William Smith College is located. We actually play Merchant Marine Academy on Saturday. And if we win that, we play the 1-seed William Smith on Sunday and fly back to Memphis Sunday night. So, a lot of people, and rightfully so, they watch TV, they watch the SEC, the NBA playoffs, but just a lot of love to our women's athletes at Rhodes, and especially our women's lacrosse team. They have had a huge amount of success. Coach Megan Keelan has done a terrific job. You might ask, well, how are we good in the South in women's lacrosse? Well, Megan played Division I in the Baltimore area, and that's where a lot of terrific players historically play lacrosse in the Northeast. And she has done a terrific job recruiting young women to come to Rhodes to pursue a degree and also play their passionate sport in lacrosse. And so that's my day, Rob. And I literally, when I get off this Zoom, I am going to the airport. I got my boarding passes, got a check in the bag, hopefully gets to Buffalo.
Well, bottom line is the kids most of them are out of school right now. So
yeah, we just finished finals Friday, and actually we have 3 seniors that are going to have a different ceremony. They're going to miss their graduation on Saturday, and the college will do a small ceremony with those 3 student athletes, their families, and also some of the teammates and coaches will be there to watch. So it's a really neat time when you get to go to the NCAA tournament as a student athlete and represent your college. There's nothing better if you're a student athlete.
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, you're going. That's as big as it gets. That's what you aspire to do. How many different sports do y'all have at Rhodes?
Well, we're at 21, but believe it or not, we'll be 23 next year. We've always participated in indoor track, so we really are at 23. But now it's going to count as a conference championship. So officially, next year we'll have 23 sports. I think I've told you this number again. We have over 525 student athletes. So, only one half of the AD Angles here for Thursday, but Mr. Hartwell knows this. I mean, the reality of the situation is, everyone thinks an athletic director is there for the big sports. We are there for everyone. We are all inclusive to try to make sure every student athlete experiences success within their passionate pursuit of their sport.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny. Now, you played at Drake up in Des Moines.
I was a manager. I stopped playing in high school. Yeah.
But you probably practiced with the team, didn't you?
Yeah. I separated my shoulder going up against 6'9" Sam Powell when he landed on me for a rebound. I was not smart enough to let go. So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, when Tommy Kane's on here, that's what he's from Wilmington, North Carolina. He'll be on in a few minutes. And Tommy, he was just dreamed of going to North Carolina State. He would have crawled from Wilmington to Raleigh, and he was a manager on the team. And toward the end of Jim Valvano's career, when Les Robinson took over in that game against Duke in '93, when Jim Valvano walked out to midcourt doing the game with Brett Musburger, and that's the American dream. You work your ass off. You always get in position. You tell your kids this. You tell your kids, your own children this, okay? I mean, and you say, always be prepared. You never know when your number is going to be called. But by God, you got to be ready. If you're first team, second team, or third team. And this as a coach. You're developing player development. How about child development? You're working with your kids. You're telling them, it ain't always going to be easy in life. Sometimes you're going to come up empty-handed. The only thing you can go out there is lay your guts on the line again and again and again. Keep on fighting, because other than that, if you don't fight, you're never going to be successful in anything you do. And I can tell you, for people I know that have played sports at Rhodes, it doesn't matter, D1, 2, or 3. If you are playing college sports, the level of intensity, it's the same everywhere you go. Okay? Right. Your baseball coach, is it Cleanthes?
Cleanthes. You're close.
Cleanthes.
He's
Greek. Oh, yeah, he's Greek. Yep. You need to introduce him to Mr. Kasoptis down at Alex's Tavern.
They may have met. I don't know.
I bet they probably met, yeah. But I want to say this. When you meet people who, if they played lacrosse at Rhodes or track or football, they're still damn good athletes. That's what people need to understand. You are
highly competitive, right? Yeah.
Oh, highly competitive. And when you mix highly competitive with high IQ, high intelligence, and applicable talents where they can do things, that's a great combination. And that's why I think I have a crazy schedule, but we go by Rhodes, 4 or 5 times a week. And I know when we came over there and met with you in your office back a few months ago, that was so cool. And that campus, it's spectacular. But you think about being 512 student athletes out of a student enrollment of about 1,950. Now, at Auburn with 31,000 plus students, that's counting grad students.
Yeah.
You have about less than 600 student athletes.
Sure.
On 21 sports. Y'all have more sports than Auburn does. So I will say this, it's just interesting. 1.5% of the student body is student athletes. At Rhodes, it's about 27%.
Yeah.
That's an incredible statistic.
Well, and we actually recruit each year, Rob, between 31 and 33%. And, we have about 4 to 5% of our kids that decide at some point they're going to stay at Rhodes. But they're going to stop playing their sport. But, we have over 92, 93% retention rate amongst student athletes. That's incredible, Wow. Yeah. And the college has that same retention rate as well. So once you get into Rhodes and you get engaged, this because you've talked about this on the show with some of the students you've had for interns. And our kids do really well when they leave Rhodes. Yeah. In terms of they build up that work ethic. And if you're a student athlete and you're able to balance that academic schedule with the sport, my gosh, you can definitely multitask. Yeah. No, there's no question. And you're right by the Memphis Zoo, which is great. I had a lot of fraternity brothers at Auburn. They'd been Sigma Nu's at Rhodes, and they were a couple of them were from Point Clear and Fairhope. They transferred back to Auburn. And the statute of limitations have long since run out, so I will tell this. Lee Turner and the boys used to climb over the fence on Parkway and swim with the sea lions. You can't make this stuff up. And but I'm not saying that's part of the student handbook at Rhodes that you're going to swim with the sea lions, but you are in a big city right there in Highland Park in a beautiful neighborhood. And the whole area, Rhodes has saved that part of Memphis because it ain't going anywhere. You got your own rock quarry. We debatable whether they still use it, but as an architect's son, I do know the importance of architectural continuity. You don't see that at a lot of big state universities, but at Rhodes, it is par for the course. We'll be right back. Matt Dean, Rob Browne on Thursday's Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
We'll be seeing Chad House and lots of people over in the Wynne area at the Wynne Barbecue Festival, June 9th and 10th at the Sportsplex. We got a barbecue team in there, Matt. It's going to be called Ooh, That Smell. The smell of pork around you from a famous band. Do you remember who that band was that sang that song? Ooh, that smell.
I knew you were going to ask me that, Rob. I couldn't tell you the slightest. I have no idea.
Yeah, remember that big oak tree? You're in my way. Leonard Skinner. That was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You've heard of them now. Hey, all right. Question for you here from one of our listeners. Man, we got some listeners that pay attention. Now, this is a serious question. I tell you what, this is from Arlo Guthrie, Naperville, Illinois.
Yeah.
Ask Matt. Yeah, it's right on I-90, isn't it, or 94?
Yeah. It's just Southern. Great place.
Oh yeah. Ask Matt Dean about the large number of Iowa State gambling participation. Is this a problem? Apparently, Andy Staples, a national writer, thinks so. What is that about? I mean, I'll admit, I'll plead the fifth. I have Sergeant Schultz. I know nothing.
Well, Rob, I'm going to give you an analogy, and I'm going to compare it a little bit to the Alabama situation. I haven't been on it about 10 days, so you may have talked about that situation with their baseball coach. I compare it a little bit, Rob, in your industry to insider trading. So I'm guessing, and I don't know the facts, but for these student athletes, I think Iowa held out a couple of their baseball players in the last weekend series. Think about this. If you're 18 to 22, maybe you have an NIL deal, but you're still probably trying to pocket a little money, and you know your starting pitcher is not going to pitch in a certain game, and no one knows that, and you know you're throwing a guy that our chances are less to win. I mean, I don't know what happened, but I think it's prevalent out there that you open yourself up to discussions with friends about, hey, this is going to be a tough game. And I don't know what happened. I don't really want to comment too much about it because I haven't talked to my contacts within the university community. But there was 26 student athletes, I think, from both universities that are being investigated. And I don't know if that's betting on games or I don't think it's – I hope it's not trying to fix a game, But I think it goes on more than we think. It happens in the NFL, Rob. Once again, we had some – pro athletes suspended in the offseason again. And these are guys that are making millions of dollars a year. I just think in the college game now, you got a phone, you got the app on here. It's simple, Rob. It's a different version of day trading. And I try to counsel my youngest son who's not in the NCAA. There's so many prop bets and everything you can do these days. I try to just say, hey, look, just try to enjoy the game for what it is and not worry about the point spread or the over, the under, or how many threes a certain player is hitting, or did you cover the parlay with the rebounds and assist, So, Rob, I think right now, I don't think it's problematic because it's not known, if that makes sense. But I think it's happening more than we realize. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. And that's something, I go back to 1979, 1980, right when ESPN came out. Yeah. Remember Michael Adams and the Boston College deal with basketball?
Yeah, I do.
And luckily, we haven't had it. It hasn't been widespread because the NCAA does not have subpoena power. But when you get into sports betting, if it's across state lines, it becomes a federal crime. Of course,
sure it does.
Who knows what the FBI will do? I mean, it's not like it used to be with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. It's no Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.'s FBI. I'll just say that.
But to answer the question, I don't know a ton of what's going on with those two universities up there.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, you're right. And so, Elliot Ness is not going to come after you. We don't, but it better not become widespread,
right?
Because with NIL is, in a lot of ways, it's a cancer, and it can ruin your program. And again, Matt, I have talked to coaches that will remain connected with passion because they're in their office, and this as a coach. You're in your office trying to get better, putting depth charts together, talking to recruits or whatever, and you got to deal with these student athletes hey, coach, man, I need to get more money because this school or that school is offering me a better deal. You need to come up with something. Okay, hold on. Let me put the whole team aside, the success of the whole team aside to take care of your little narcissistic ass. No, not going to do it. And coaches hate it. I mean, it's like in sales. Your sales force is overwhelmed with paperwork and compliance and all this stuff. And you're going, hey, man, I'm an F-18 fighter pilot on a U.S. carrier group. I fly missions. I take out enemy targets. When I land back on the plane safely, thank you, God, I've got a crew that checks my tires, instrument panel, refuels my plane, puts bullets, bombs in there. I go in there, hang out, drink a Ham's beer with my friends, and unwind. That's my role. We've got to get a handle on this insanity that is NIL, Matt. And I think we are. And we've got Tommy Kane's going to join us now as well. But I just want your take on it, Matt. If you're a coach and some athlete comes in there and is telling you, get me more money because this school or that, I'd say, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Good night. Goodbye. See you later. If you don't love this place, I don't want you around here.
Hey, Tommy, good to see you again.
Good to see you, Matt.
But my answer to that is I think you have to have a plan on the front end so you can let a kid know before you recruit them where they sign. You know, remember this was not when this was designed, it was not supposed to be a recruiting inducement, right? It was supposed to be something that the student athletes were marketing themselves for once they enrolled at the institution. We know that's not going on these days. But if let's say that scenario just played itself out and you, Rob, you signed with us, you're playing with us, you got whatever NIL deal you got, and you come in and you ask me for more, Rob, unless you're averaging 20 and 10 and you're my damn star, I don't know what I'm going to do with say bye, right? I mean, at some point you have to draw the line in everything you do. It's no different before NIL. If someone comes into my office and says, I'm not playing enough. Well, listen, Tommy, I want you to be happy. I want you to have a great experience. And if you can't get it here, then we'll release you from your scholarship. You can go elsewhere. That's the way I address this because, man, when you start trying to please everyone, you please no one.
Exactly.
I think Matt, look, we all knew this was going to happen. As soon as the NIL came out and said they could do that, there's no way that it was going to be a smooth sailing, control it, do whatever. You're talking about money.
Right.
And you're talking about money for young kids that are right out of high school that are going into college. Most of them don't have money. And you're giving them a chance to make money and have money for their likeness and image and everything else. And I'm trying to use the correct word on the radio. It is a crap show.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it just is. Now you got all these people that don't even really care about the sport as much. They just want the money that's involved with the sport. And they're seeing that there's writing on the wall and they got their moms and dads and their friends and everybody else that's probably influencing them incorrectly saying, man, you can get more money. Go here, go do that, go do whatever. And they're listening to them. It's just it is not going to get it. They've got to put guardrails on it somehow, some way. Or you just think if you want an NIL deal at this school, fine, but you got to stay at this school for 2 or 3 years. You can't, if you're going to sign to be a spokesperson on your social media for the Papa John's pizza in town or whatever like that, fine, but you're in for 2 years, 3 years. You can't just keep jumping back and forth because it's like, we talk about this all the time on the show. How do you, as a coach, build consistency, build loyalty when your program? How do you do that? Because you're paying the kids more than everybody else? No, you should be developing an environment to let those kids flourish and to grow as better athletes and grow as men or women in their respective fields and sports. And so they can go on to the rest of their lives, not so they can go make all the money just to buy one more deal, NIL deal. It's just a mess. And somebody needs to step in or it's going to get, I've always said this, and I know I'm going on here on a rant because I get passionate about this, but I've always said, like, just give it time. The big schools, like the big oil wealthy schools down in Texas and the Phil Knights of the world and stuff like that, they're going to just start signing all the great kids, the huge NIL deals, and they're going to have dynasties. Like right? I mean, unless just put some guardrails. But anyway, I regress.
Well, no, Tommy, I agree with you. I like the idea when you come here, here's how your NIL deal works. It's an age banded, or it's incentive based, or it's back end. You've got to stay here 3 years to get it. Okay. If you leave early, look, every business contract that I've ever been a part of, I think y'all would agree, you got to stay a certain amount of time for any of this stuff to kick in. And if you leave early, you owe that money back. It's that simple. So these kids want to be treated like big time adults. Treat them like big time adults. Say, okay, contrary to what you've been told all your life, you the man or you the girl, and the world revolves around you. Okay, it doesn't work that way. And if you're going to come here first, you've got to hit certain. You're talking about the coaches get all this money. You don't like that. Oh, you're jealous of them. Okay, we're going to do the same thing to you. Coaches' contracts, they've got incentives in there. How many conference games do you win? Do you win your conference? Do you get to the playoff? All that stuff. You've got to do the certain thing. You got to maintain a certain GPA to get NIL. You got to do this. You got to hit all these benchmarks. The small print at the bottom of the contract. The big print giveth, the small print taketh away. Tommy, you nailed it. Matt, you nailed it. The free market, and I'll tell you this about Texas and the big money. I've interviewed several major as my kids call them, ginormous boosters of college athletics. They despise NIL. And these are people worth tons of money. And they've said, never in a million years would I pay my employees like that. And I'm damn sure not going to give 17 and 18-year-old kids who hadn't done a damn thing in college that kind of money. So I don't know where the money's coming from. Not attacking Tommy, but the people that I deal with in my practice, they ain't the ones doing it. And they
I think I hear what you're saying, Rob, but there are people out there that will
I know.
Because they want to win. They want to win.
Yeah.
They want to go to the games on Saturday. They want to play the big bowl games. They want to have the national spotlight because they're passionate about their teams and they want to win. So there are people out there who are going to pay it. I agree with you. Yeah. I think the morally correct and ethically correct businessmen in the world are like, when they see the numbers, like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm not doing that. But there's a lot of people out there that will pay, and it's a snowball effect. It's just once it gets going, you can't stop it because again, it's all about money, and I just think that it's somebody's got to step in and control it, or it's college sports is professional sports now. It's professional sports. I mean, it really is, and the sad thing about it is all the kids that are doing just as much practicing and just as much time constraints and everything on their social life and everything else because of the sports they play, like volleyball or golf or whatever they did in practice, they ain't getting a penny. So where's the fairness in that? So
Matt, that's a good point.
No, Tommy's spot on in his statement earlier about the guardrails. That's where the NCAA has eventually had to come in. And I don't know how you do it. I don't know if you salary cap it or whatever. There has to be some parameters. And then if there's some penalties, if you exceed those parameters. And, looking forward, there are teams that manage things really well in all the Power 5 teams, right? Last 2 years, what Georgia's done, prior to that, Alabama, there's a lot of other teams that do a great job of that, Ohio State, Michigan, whomever. But the kids that are really, you see these kids that are bouncing. And like even after my son, they had their spring game in Eugene, Oregon, back on the 29th or 30th. They had kids enter the portal within 48 hours after that game, and it's like, man, we're talking May. And, where are you going to go? And then if you go somewhere, what's your role going to be? That's the thing that bothers me is like the development process of certain student athletes is kind of out the window. Because, if you want to have continuity, and continuity usually is relative towards building a program, if you're a student athlete, you need a couple years in the system sometimes before you reach your maturity level, right?
100%.
And you can't get that if you bouncy. And it's just deteriorated the fabric of something that's special. And you see it, in college basketball. I mean, I know, Tommy, you have your roots with the Wolfpack, and you have ties to the whole Valvano tree. And I actually have ties to the Valvano tree when I worked for Tom Abadamarco as a manager at college. And, to this day, there are certain things I do in my coaching when the last time I coached because of my roots. And it's just unfortunate. And we're getting my point on that is we're seeing some coaches leave the industry earlier than they wanted to. One of my favorite coaches is Jay Wright. And, I'm not to say you can't retire at 60. Gosh, I'm envious. But when he left Villanova with 2 national championships, you just wonder if he was tired of the crowd.
Oh, sure. I'm at 100%. And I think that, for me, I just think that the coaching landscape was hard enough with just recruiting, right? And trying to that recruiting battle all the time and nonstop, and who's got what and how you're going to get the kids and whatever. But now, like we've talked about on the show before, you're recruiting your own players that are already there to stay. And, do you have coaches on your staff that's their job to do? And look, we've talked about this ad nauseum on here, but you're also setting these kids up for a lifestyle of, so when the going gets tough and it's not working out, I'm going to quit and I'm going over here because they're going to take care of me better and do whatever.
Yeah.
To me, that is fundamentally a bad way to live life. It's a bad way to influence the young men and women that are trying to find themselves at their ages. I mean, you guys remember, we're talking about 17, 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. And you're saying to them, oh, it's not working out. Just go here and do whatever.
Right.
Like, to me, you're setting them up for failure for the rest of their life. Because they're going to get a job. There's not one of us that's sitting here that's ever had a job when you go to work every day and you be like, this is awesome. I love this place. And you're happy as could be or whatever. There's always times when you go through and you're like, this sucks. I want out. But you don't. You stick with it.
Yeah, you're right. Hold that thought. We're going to be right back. Tommy Kane, Matt Dean on Sidelines. All right, Rob Browne back here with
Matt Dean just disappeared. Look at that.
Matt Dean has been replaced by the crystal. The crystal casing. Wow, that's very impressive. But Matt will be right back. That was a quicker than thought commercial break. I want to say something about one of our sponsors, rumbleboxinggym.com/Midtown Memphis, 1835 Union Avenue at the corner of Union and McLean, across the street from Walgreens. Rumble Boxing Gym and Campley, the first of 3 Memphis locations she's going to be doing in the Memphis area. Opens up about 5:30 in the morning. You go into there. You talk about tough guys. That when you go in there and do the workouts, we've done them. You've got the small gloves, then you put the big punching gloves on. You are doing 45 minutes non-stop calisthenics, star jacks, burpees, push-ups, crunches, flutter kicks, weights, dumbbells. Then you jump over and you hit the bag, and it's hook, jab, gut, and it's 15 times 3, 45 minutes non-stop. Now, if you were a kid growing up in this portal world, you go, well, I'm going to quit until they do something I like in the workout. You can't do that. Y'all both just nailed it. I mean, Tommy, every time you're on, man, I just get fired up thinking about, the parallels between the Mean Joe Green commercial for Coca-Cola with the little kid, he throws the jersey at him. All your life, you worked your butt off and prepared. You were a manager at NC State, but when they called you and they needed you to play, you got to dress out. I don't know many people that got to do that. That's a special thing. And I guarantee you, anytime you get in a tight situation in life, in marriage, with kids, anything, you're going, how are we going to do this? You can remember back to those tough times, those one-on-one battles. You didn't have your mom and dad there. You didn't have your teammates there, but you look back on those tough practices and you drew from that and you pulled through in there, because there are going to be a lot of battles you're going to fight in life. Ain't going to be anybody around. You're going to have to fight through, and you're going to remember the tough times. And that's what I love. And Matt, you know that as a coach. You know, you got a son out there at Oregon. How many times has he called you and said, Dad, you were right. There's sometimes I want to put my head through the wall, but now I put my head through the wall and I push through to the other side of the house. It's just, there's nothing better than never quitting. That's all I can say.
That's right. You know, and in fact, I just gave a talk a couple of nights ago to the athletic banquet for a high school. There was a guest speaker, and they, you know, my talk when I always talk to young athletes and stuff like that in schools and churches is what Coach Vavano used to always preach is putting yourself in a position to win. Like, so doing everything in the preparation ahead of time, mentally, physically, everything you can to put yourself in a position to win. So at the end of the day, if you give it your all and you know you've prepared to the maximum nth degree, you're going to have a shot at winning. Now, do you always win? Of course not. And I'm not talking about just sports. I'm talking about life as well. You don't always win. Whether, you know, you had a plan and it just falls apart at the end, you know, personally or whatever's going on in your life, or you have, you're in a sports world and you miss a shot at the end of the game. You're not always going to win. But you have to know as a human being that you did everything you could leading up to that to put yourself in that position to win. Because you owe that to yourself. You owe it to the good Lord who gave you the talents to do what you're doing. You owe it to your friends and your family and the supporters. And that's what you have to put yourself in to do. Now, again, you're not always going to win. But I will promise you this, if you do that consistently, year after year after year, project after project after project at work, sport after sport after sport at practice, you will be successful more than you will fail. That's just the bottom line, right? So that, I think, is what we're missing with this whole NIL deal and people transferring all the time, is they're not allowing themselves to pull up their bootstraps and work their butts off to get to the position to be successful. They just say, oh, I'm not successful, I'll go here, I'll go here. And it's just setting a bad precedent.
Yeah. Matt.
No, Tommy's right. And, you know, we talk about as coaches, and Tommy's probably experienced this along the way too, is just, you know, how we handle adversity defines us really from a character standpoint. And if you're just going to, when it gets tough every time, look for a different venue, or you don't have enough money, you're NIL deal or whatever, you're really never going to experience that. And some of the greatest accomplishments my team has had from a coaching standpoint are after seasons where we failed. I mean, I remember we were 9-16 back in 08-09, and midway through that season, I probably worked the hardest I ever did at finishing off the recruiting class. And then the next, 4 years, we won 88 games and 50-8 over a 2-year span. And it comes from having a really bad season from a record standpoint. Now, I love those kids. We coached our butts off with those kids, and we got better every day. And that's another thing, even in a season where it doesn't go your way, you're always preaching, can we get better every day? And that matters, because if you look at when you leave a college and you have the next, 40 years to work, let's say, you better be able to be in it for the long run. Because, if you just in year 2, you're spent, you got to realize it's a marathon. You got to pace yourself. You've got to be patient. You got to exude confidence when you just like that duck on the water. You are scared to death, but you got to be confident. And those things, we have an advantage as athletes and coaches, because the team experience in athletics prepares you for all of the challenges once you leave that institution. And the folks that decide not to finish their college education or try to go early to the pros and it doesn't work out, maybe they go overseas, whatever. If you don't have that foundation, it's really hard to be successful in the long term.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of people, you're going to work 50 years plus, or some 60. I mean, so you're talking about a 3 or 4 year window of your life. And so Tommy Tuberville's right. We're supposed to be teaching these kids about life, about lessons of life, about fighting through adversity and not quitting. And we're making it just easy to quit. and rewarding them for it. He goes, what the hell are these colleges doing? You know, just like he said something the other day about one of the Megan Rapinoe, the soccer player. You know, where is she standing up to protect women having to compete against men? He goes, you know, what would she be doing if she had to compete against the men? She wouldn't have the platform she does today. We're supposed to teach people through sports. You know, if your parents allow you to quit as a small child, every time something doesn't go your way, you ain't going to amount to a damn thing in your life. That's just a fact. And I hear people over and over will say, well, you can't get on kids today and be tough on them. Yeah, you can. Absolutely, you can. I got four of them. Ask them. They sometimes, I don't think they like me. But I'm hard, but I'm fair. I don't look down on anybody. But you're going to do things. Tommy's right. Tommy, you've got a production company. You don't have people calling you up and going, Tommy, that quote you sent me, let's double that. I want to pay twice that much, okay? Because I just like that shirt you're wearing today, and I like that framed picture in the background of the wolf. Is that an NC State wolf from the Wolf Pack? I like that.
Heck yeah, you know it is.
Damn right it is. But Tommy, all right, let's talk about something now. You last night were doing production work for MLB Network.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Were y'all at Truist Park? Because you look like you're in Atlanta in the home office.
Okay. Yeah, when MLB Network comes through town to broadcast a game for the Braves, they always hire me to be a field producer for the night. And it's a pretty fun little gig. I just do it probably 3 or 4 times a season, maybe when they come through town. And so last night we were down there for the Red Sox game, Braves and Red Sox. Great night at the ballpark as far as just weather was perfect. Got to it's cool just to kind of walk around with. I was field producing JP. John Paul Moriaso is the I think I said his last name correctly. He's the sideline reporter for the games. Super guy, really knowledgeable about the sport. And so we just kind of make sure that his hits and all his little interviews during the middle of the game and stuff like that, he does all go down pretty seamlessly. And he did a great job. But yeah, it's fun to be down there. You know, you get to sit in the dugouts, get to see the interaction between all the managers and the players, and get up close and personal with those guys. And Bob Costas was calling the game, so got to rub elbows with him a little bit. And there's it's a cool atmosphere. It's a fun way to spend the evening working. And but the game was for Braves fans, which did not end up well. But the Braves are loaded. They're just great. They just got a little bit of issues with their rotation and their pitching right now. But when everybody comes back healthy, they'll be in the mix, if not in the World Series again this year. So, but yeah, it's a fun gig. It's cool.
Well, we were over there a couple of weeks ago for the baptism of Chandler Elizabeth, Mallory's daughter, and went up. I didn't get to go to the Braves games, but they were playing, and Tyler, he watches every game. The Braves fans are Bravesologists. They study, and they call it Braves country. That footprint, Tommy and Matt, in the Southeast, and they really encompass reaching out to the sports fans in the Southeast, SEC, ACC, Sun Belt, whatever. They do an incredible job. They have NC State night. They'll have Auburn night. They'll have Georgia night at the park.
Right.
And they just do a great job with that. And by the way, Tommy, have you been to Tacos La Villa over there? It's not that far from. You got to check that place. It's absolutely incredible. But the Braves, Matt, do an incredible job of marrying into the college sports fan footprint in the Southeast. And Ben Ingram, by the way, Tommy, is a great radio voice of the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, he does a nice job, doesn't he? Yeah.
And again, I'll say this: there is no better sport to listen to on the radio.
Correct.
If you're out, then many a camping trip up in the Ozarks in Arkansas and Missouri as a kid, and still listening to KMOX AM 1120, St. Louis Cardinals baseball, and Jack Buck. Mike Shannon, who recently passed away.
Yeah.
But Tommy, you're so blessed to get to go do that Major League Baseball stuff.
Oh, it's a blast. It's a blast. And last night we saw a little bit of history. Kenley Jansen got his 400 saves. So it was a pretty big moment. We got to see that. That's who our post-game interview was with. But, yeah, I thought, Rob, I've been very lucky to kind of just get put in some positions. Again, going back to what we talked about, position to win. But, just putting myself out there when people ask me to do things for them and not necessarily whether it's outside of my comfort zone or just money wise, it's not like what I would normally charge for something like that. I still will, if I have the time and the energy can do it, I will do it in order to put myself in the position to later on be successful with that. And so I started doing stuff for MLB Network probably 7, 8, 9 years ago or so when they came through town. And I've gotten to do some really cool stuff. I've gotten to interview some cool people and just kind of be around and see how it all goes down when the productions they put on and stuff, which is fun. But and I get to sit in the dugout, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Matt, what's not to like about that? The fact that the Braves lost last night, but they are 25-12.
Yeah, I mean it's the writing's on the wall. They're so loaded. I mean their whole lineup from top to bottom is like, anybody at any time can beat you. So they're gonna, the good thing is if you're a Braves fan, those guys are locked in for a long time. Like if you look at their contracts of all the people they got, the Acuñas and the Albies and the Austin Rileys and stuff, they're there for a long time. So Braves fans are loving life right now because they're going to be in the mix for a good few years.
Yeah. Matt.
No, when I moved to Memphis in the early 90s, it was interesting because, I've always been a Chicago sports fan growing up in the Midwest. But, if you come to Memphis for baseball, you have Cardinal fans and you have Brave fans, and I've met a lot of people that are so passionate about their Atlanta baseball team. And, like right now, I mean, I can't name all the names, Tommy, but you're right. They are so loaded. The other night, Acuna Jr. hit a ball. I think it was like 470 feet.
Oh, he hit one last night, 470. Yeah.
That was last night. I'm sorry. Last night, I'm just like, and it's just effortlessly for that kid. And he's a young dude. Like you said, they got a lot of dudes locked up. And, baseball's so different because you have to play the game and get these kids locked up before they're eligible for these big contracts. And you have a window to try to make your run. Because then later on, it's really difficult to afford it, and if you have a great farm system, which traditionally the Braves have always had, it just expedites the process. And, I really felt bad last year because I don't know the specifics. I know we're on a tangent now, but when I saw Freddie Freeman in a Los Angeles Dodgers uniform, it just didn't look right to me. Then you hear some of the things about whether or not his agent actually told him that the Braves actually did make an offer. And,
right.
He's obviously getting compensated very well. He's very successful, but he was a guy that I thought would be in their uniform almost till he was done. And,
sure.
White Sox fans, we lost a guy, Jose Abreu, that played for us for 8 years. And he signed with the Astros. And Houston's coming to Chicago this weekend. So hopefully the White Sox will celebrate him, pregame or first at bat, those videos they put up and stuff like that. So, but I'm just telling you, from a Major League Baseball fan, which I am, I appreciate great organizations, and Atlanta Braves are a great organization.
Oh man, they do it right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we got a couple of minutes left. Liberty Media, Billy Roberts, who's on the show with us a lot, and he's a Bravesologist, said their payroll is like $150 million. Dodgers is $250.
Right.
They recruit like a college team. They get a lot of guys out of that southeastern footprint, and then you've got the Curacao kids. Ozzie Albies came up here. Andrew Jones put a lot of money into baseball and development, and these kids are now coming up here and playing for the Braves. It's a lot like what we grew up watching, the Big Red Machine and the Yankees and some of these teams. They were together, and that's how you look. That is how you build a fan base. People love seeing that. But hey, real quick, we got to scoot. It's about out of time. We got about a minute. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. We have the best guest ever on this show, Matt Dean, Tommy Kane. Tommy, tell them how they can keep up with you and your great production company.
Oh, yeah, man. Thanks. Pack 30 Productions, PACK30productions.com. And then follow me on Instagram, Tommy Kane-talent. And, man, just always kind of rocking and rolling and trying to put myself in the position to win.
Well, absolutely. And thanks so much for taking time to join us. And, Matt, how they keep up with you and this road trip? You got 30 seconds. Y'all going to win it all?
we're going to win Saturday. Tommy, we're going to play NCAA lacrosse on the women's side up in New York. I'm traveling with the team here in a little bit. So follow me at Dino Hoops 44. And it's always a pleasure being on the show, and I really enjoy it. I'm here with Tommy. So y'all have a great weekend.
Yeah, we always do. And we'll be back tomorrow. I got another loaded show. And I'll tell you what, Major League Baseball, we had a lot of talk about it. This is why, because now you can start identifying with these players on the Braves team. You start following them, and it goes through the years. The Braves are brilliant. There's not a better front office at marrying the fans of the Southeast with a team. God love them. We'll see you tomorrow. We are out of here. Thanks, guys.